Welcome to the Fun English Podcast, where we make learning English fun and easy. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Sarah. We're so happy to have you here today. If you've ever felt like you understand English perfectly, but just can't bring yourself to speak it confidently, then this episode is exactly what you need. Today, we'll talk about how to overcome the fear of speaking English and how to start speaking confidently, even if you're just starting out.
That's right. A lot of people experience this. You can read books, watch movies, and understand conversations in English, but when it's your turn to speak, you might feel nervous or even freeze up. You're not alone, and we're going to share some simple yet effective tips to help you improve your speaking skills.
Exactly. Speaking is often the hardest part, but it doesn't have to be. With the right mindset and practice, speaking English can feel as natural as understanding it. So, let's dive in and talk about how to go from being an English listener to being an English speaker.
Let me share a little story about myself. When I first started learning Spanish, I was in a similar situation. I could understand conversations, read books, and even watch movies in Spanish without too much trouble. But when it came time for me to speak, I would freeze. My mouth felt like it was glued shut. I was terrified of making mistakes, and I thought my pronunciation wasn't good enough.
I can totally relate to that. I've had moments when I understood everything in English, but the thought of speaking it in front of others made me nervous. But over time, I realized something important. Making mistakes is normal, and they don't define you as a learner.
Exactly. It wasn't until I gave myself permission to make mistakes that I started improving. I slowly learned that it's okay to mess up. Actually, mistakes are one of the fastest ways to learn.
Okay, let's jump into our first tip. Start small and build gradually. If you're struggling with speaking, it's tempting to want to jump right into complicated sentences and long conversations, but that can be overwhelming. Instead, start with simple words and phrases.
That's a great point. Start with the basics. For example, instead of trying to say, I'm going to the store to buy groceries and then I'll visit my friend, start by practicing simple sentences like, I'm going to the store, or I'm buying food.
Exactly. When I was first learning French, I would practice small sentences. For instance, I'd say things like, Je m'appelle Sarah, meaning, my name is Sarah. It's simple, but it helped me build confidence. Over time, I added more and more complex sentences.
You can also practice phrases that you'd use every day. Things like, how are you? What's your name? Where is the bathroom? These are small phrases, but they'll help you feel more comfortable speaking in a variety of situations.
The second tip is to practice every day. Consistency is key. Even if you're just speaking for 5 minutes a day, that will make a huge difference over time.
I remember when I first started, I set aside just 10 minutes a day to speak Spanish. I would talk to myself about what I was doing, like, I'm drinking coffee or I'm walking to the store. At first it felt strange, but the more I practiced, the easier it became.
Absolutely. Even if you're not in a conversation, just speaking aloud every day is so helpful. You can practice in the car, while cooking, or when you're alone at home. The important thing is that you're getting your mouth and brain used to the act of speaking.
Yes, and that's how you build muscle memory. Speaking out loud helps your brain connect words to actions and situations. Eventually, you'll find that speaking becomes more natural.
Now, here's a fun one. Listen and repeat. One of the best ways to improve your speaking is to listen to native speakers and then try to repeat what they say.
I love this one. When I was learning Spanish, I would listen to Spanish podcasts or even watch TV shows. After hearing a phrase, I'd pause the video and repeat the sentence out loud. It helped me with pronunciation and also gave me a better understanding of the rhythm and flow of the language.
Exactly. And you can do this with English too. Whether it's a podcast, movie, or song, try to imitate the speaker. Don't just listen passively, actively repeat what they say. You can also try shadowing, where you speak at the same time as the person in the video or podcast.
This helps with intonation and accent too. You'll notice that native speakers don't just speak with words. They have a certain way of saying things that makes them sound more natural. Imitating that is a great way to improve your speaking skills.
Here's one of the most effective tips. Find a conversation partner. Speaking with a real person helps you get used to the flow of conversation and gives you the chance to make mistakes in a safe, supportive environment.
Yes, and the great thing about today's world is that there are so many ways to connect with others online. Apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, and italki are great for finding language partners. You can chat with someone from another country and practice speaking with them regularly.
I've had amazing experiences with language exchange partners. Not only did I get better at speaking, but I also learned so much about different cultures. It's like learning the language and gaining new friends all in one go.
And don't be afraid to start small with your conversations. You don't need to jump into deep topics right away. Start with basic greetings or talking about your hobbies. Over time, you'll be able to have longer conversations.
Let's talk about mistakes. One of the biggest fears people have when speaking a new language is making mistakes, but mistakes are your friends. They are not only okay, but necessary for learning.
Exactly. When I first spoke Spanish to native speakers, I made so many mistakes. And you know what? They didn't judge me at all. Most of the time, they just smile and help me out. It was a safe space to learn.
It's funny. Often, the people you're speaking to will actually appreciate the fact that you're trying to speak their language. They'll help you out without being critical, so don't stress about being perfect. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn.
I also remember how embarrassing it felt at first, but over time I got comfortable with it. The more you practice, the less you care about making mistakes. And honestly, mistakes will eventually become fewer and fewer.
This is one that makes a huge difference. Think in English. The more you think in English, the less you'll need to translate words in your head from your native language. This makes your speech smoother and faster.
I've been there. When I first started speaking Spanish, I used to translate everything in my head before saying it, which slowed me down. But as I practiced, I started thinking directly in Spanish. It felt so much more natural.
Yes, and you can start practicing this even when you're not having a conversation. When you're walking down the street, try to describe what you see in English. For example, there's a dog walking by, or I see a blue car. The more you do this, the easier it becomes to think in English during real conversations.
And finally, let's talk about language apps. There are so many great apps out there that can help you practice speaking. Duolingo, Babbel, Memorize, and many others are fantastic for building vocabulary and practicing pronunciation.
I love how apps like Duolingo make language learning feel like a game. You earn points, level up, and complete challenges. It's a fun way to keep practicing, and it makes you want to come back every day.
Yes, and some of these apps have speaking exercises where they'll ask you to say a word or sentence out loud. It's a great way to work on pronunciation and listening skills at the same time.
To wrap up, here's a quick reminder of the tips we've covered today. Start small and build gradually. Practice every day. Listen and repeat. Find a conversation partner. Embrace your mistakes. Think in English and use language apps. Each one of these can help you speak more confidently.
And most importantly, have fun. Learning a language is a journey. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and remember that the more you practice, the better you'll get.
We hope today's episode gave you some helpful insights and motivation. Don't give up. With practice, you'll be speaking English confidently before you know it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fun English Podcast. We'll catch you in the next episode. Keep practicing and enjoy the journey. Thank you so much for watching my video. Honestly, it means the world to me that you took the time to be here. I work hard every day to create content that you'll enjoy, and knowing that even one person is watching gives me so much motivation. I promise no matter what, even if I only have one viewer, I'll keep going and do my best to make videos worth watching. Your support means everything to me, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. See you in the next one.